Eric didn't say a word the entire ride home. He kept both hands on the wheel, eyes forward, jaw tight enough that I could see the muscle tick near his ear. I hated that I noticed things like that, tiny tells I'd learned to read over 10 years of marriage. 10 years. And suddenly I was the passenger in my own life. You don't have to grip the door like that, he said finally, voice flat. I'm not. I lied. My ribs screamed every time the car hit a pothole. And New Jersey roads were basically obstacle courses this time of year. I'm just saying, you're tense. I broke 3 ribs and cracked my pelvis. Eric, forgive me if I'm not relaxed. He sighed, the kind of sigh that meant you're being difficult again. I told you I'd handle everything. You didn't need to come home today. I didn't need to. Or you didn't want me to. That shut him up. Good. When we pulled into the driveway, I saw it immediately, the white Audi convertible parked crooked behind Eric's BMW. NYU parking permit on the windshield. I didn't know a single person with an NYU permit who wasn't either a student or pretending to be younger than they were. Who's here? I asked. Eric popped the trunk, already reaching for my overnight bag like I couldn't ask a simple question. A friend. Staying for a few days. To help out. Which friend? You don't know her. That was answer enough. Inside, the house smelled wrong. Not bad, just different. Vanilla candles, something lemony from the kitchen, and under it all, a perfume I didn't recognize. Expensive, light, floral, deliberately inoffensive. The kind of scent someone wears when they want you to underestimate them. Eric fussed with my jacket, his hands lingering too long on my shoulders. Sit. I'll get you settled. I can walk upstairs. You shouldn't. I shouldn't. Or you don't want me to. He didn't answer, just guided me toward the couch like I was made of glass. Then he disappeared upstairs, his footsteps deliberate. I heard humming from the kitchen. Female, cheerful in a way that felt rehearsed. A minute later, she appeared. Nora? She said, all sunshine and sympathy. I'm Lila. I've heard so much about you. I looked at her young, blonde, wearing what looked suspiciously like my slippers, and smiled without warmth. I wish I could say the same. Lila tilted her head, all practiced concern. How are you feeling? Eric said you had a rough time. Define rough. She laughed, light and tinkling, like this was a cocktail party and not my living room. You're funny. Eric said you were funny. Eric says a lot of things. I shifted on the couch, biting back a wince. Where is he? Upstairs. Changing. She said it casually, but her eyes flicked toward the staircase. Changing into what? Just clothes. Relaxing. She perched on the arm of the chair across from me. Can I get you anything? Water? Tea? I made chicken soup earlier. I'm fine. You sure? You look a little pale. I look pale because I was in a car accident 3 weeks ago. Lila, not because you're here. Her smile faltered. Just for a second. Then it snapped back into place. Of course. I just wanted to help. Eric's been so stressed. And I thought. You thought what? She blinked. I thought I could lend a hand. With meals. Laundry. Things like that. Laundry. I repeated. Whose laundry? Well, everyone's. I guess. I nodded slowly. And where are you staying? While you're lending a hand. Oh, I'm in the guest room. I stared at her. We don't have a guest room. The other bedroom. Then, down the hall from yours. That's my home office. Right. Well, Eric said it was fine. He cleared some space. Something cold settled in my stomach. Eric cleared space in my office. Super thoughtful. Right? Thoughtful. I echoed. Footsteps on the stairs. Eric appeared, dressed in gray sweats and a Henley. Hair, still damp from a shower. He looked between us, then settled his gaze on me. You're awake, he said, like I'd been napping instead of recovering from a major injury. Lila was just telling me about the accommodations. I said, Eric didn't miss a beat. She's helping out. It's temporary. Temporary. I repeated, like the Audi in my driveway. Our driveway. He corrected. I turned back to Lila. Get up. She blinked. Sorry? Stand up. Off my chair. She hesitated, then slid off the arm and onto her feet. Eric took a step forward. Nora, don't do this. Do what? Ask someone who doesn't live here to stop treating my house like a bed and breakfast? I'm trying to help, Lila said, voice small. By sleeping in my home office? Eric cut in. She's not sleeping in the office. I looked at him. Then where? Silence. Eric, I said, quieter now. Where is she sleeping? He ran a hand through his hair. The spare bed. In our room. Your room, I said. Or our room. Same thing. He muttered. It's not the same thing. And you know it. Lila piped up, trying to smooth it over. It's really not a big deal. I just needed a place to crash. And Eric said. I interrupted. Always Eric said. Did Eric also say you could wear my slippers? She looked down at her feet. My cream-colored UGGs. I hadn't worn them since before the accident. I borrowed them, she said. They were just sitting there. Everything in this house is just sitting there. Lila, that doesn't mean you get to use it. Eric stepped between us. Enough. You're being hostile for no reason. No reason. I repeated. Let me get this straight. I'm recovering from a near-fatal car accident. I come home to find a woman I've never met living in my house, sleeping in my bed, wearing my slippers. And I'm the hostile one? You're overreacting, he said. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, you moved your mistress into my home while I was in rehab. That's not an overreaction. That's a fact. Lila gasped. Actually gasped. Like she hadn't known I knew. Eric's face went blank. Don't call her that. What? Your mistress? Or did you want me to say guest? Because we both know which one she is. I'm not, Lila started. Save it, I said. I don't care what you call yourself. You're not welcome here. Eric leaned down, voice low. You're not well. Nora, you're on medication. You're confused. I'm not confused. I'm angry. There's a difference. You're making a scene. Good. Maybe this'll finally wake me up. He straightened. This is temporary. I told you that. Once you're back on your feet, she'll leave. When did you tell me that? Last week. On the phone. No, you didn't. You said someone might stay over. You didn't say who. You didn't say why. And you sure as hell didn't say she'd be sleeping in our bed. I didn't think you'd care. He snapped. You've been half dead for weeks. The room went quiet. Even Lila looked uncomfortable. I let the silence stretch. Then I said, half dead. That's what I am to you. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. And now I'm starting to wonder, was the accident really an accident? Eric? His eyes narrowed. Don't be insane. Insane, I repeated. Another word for inconvenient. Lila took a step back. I should go. No, Eric said quickly. Stay. Let her go, I said. Seriously. Walk out that door. Lila, right now. I won't stop you. She looked at Eric. He gave a tiny shake of his head. See, I said, he doesn't want you to leave. Because this was the plan all along. Wasn't it? Move her in while I'm vulnerable. Make it a fait accompli. By the time I notice, it's too late. You're paranoid. Eric said. Paranoid, I said. Or observant. Hard to tell the difference when your husband's a liar. He laughed. Short. Ugly. You want to talk about lying? How many pain pills have you taken today, Nora? None since this morning. Sure. Ask Dr. Patel. Go ahead. Call her. He didn't, because he knew I wasn't lying. I reached for my phone on the cushion beside me. Eric's hand shot out. What are you doing? Calling the police. For what? Trespassing. She's not trespassing. I invited her, and I'm uninviting her. Lila's voice wavered. Eric? Shut up. Lila, I said, not looking at her. My eyes were on Eric. You want to play house with her? Fine. Do it somewhere else. Not here. Not in my house. Our house. He said again. Not anymore. I tapped the screen, hit the keypad. Eric leaned over, trying to grab the phone. I twisted away, ignoring the flare of pain in my side. Nora. I hit call. 911. What's your emergency? Eric froze. I kept my voice level. Hi. Yes. I'd like to report an unauthorized person in my home. My husband moved another woman into the residence without my consent. I'd like her removed. Dispatcher. Are you in any immediate danger? Ma'am? No. But I'd like her gone before dinner. Eric snatched at the phone. I pulled it against my chest. Sir, step back from the caller. The dispatcher said, having heard him. This is a domestic misunderstanding. Eric said loudly, my wife is recovering from an injury and not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. I said, she's in my house. I did invite her. She needs to leave. Lila was backing toward the kitchen now, wide-eyed. Officers are en route. The dispatcher said, stay on the line. Please. I ended the call anyway. I didn't need her to hear the rest. Eric stared at me like I'd slapped him. You actually did it. I actually did. You're going to regret this. No, I said. You're going to regret thinking I'd roll over. Lila found her voice. Eric, maybe we should just go. Until things cool down. We're not going anywhere. Eric said. Speak for yourself. I said. She's leaving. One way or another. He crouched in front of me, lowering his voice. You think this makes you look good? Calling the cops? What are they going to say? That we're separating? That this is a civil matter? They're going to say she doesn't live here. I said. And until she does, legally, she's trespassing. I pay half the mortgage, and I pay the other half. Surprise. He stood up, raking a hand through his hair. You're being hysterical. I'm being clear. That's what you hate most, isn't it? Clarity. Lila touched his arm. Babe, don't. I said. Don't call him that in my house. She dropped her hand. We waited. The silence was thick, broken only by the ticking of the hallway clock. 5 minutes later, the cruiser pulled up. I saw the flash of red and blue through the front window. Eric opened the door before they knocked. Classic Eric controlled the entrance. 2 officers stepped in. One was older, Latino, calm eyes, Detective Ramirez, according to his badge. The other was younger, Asian, holding a notepad, Officer Chen. Ramirez scanned the room. Who called? I raised my hand. Me. Eric stepped forward. Detective, this is a private matter. My wife and I are going through a rough patch. Ramirez ignored him. Addressed me. Ma'am, are you injured? Recovering from a car accident. Ribs and pelvis. And you're the homeowner? One of them. My name's on the deed. Joint ownership? Yes. Ramirez turned to Lila. And you are? Lila Hart. Eric invited me to stay. Did you ask the wife? Lila hesitated. I assumed it was okay. Assumptions don't count. Ramirez said. He looked at me. Ma'am, do you want her here? No. Ramirez nodded. Then she needs to leave. Eric bristled. You can't just kick her out. This is my house too. It is. Ramirez agreed. But occupancy requires consent from both owners. Right now, you don't have it from her. He gestured to me. So Ms. Hart needs to gather her things and step outside. Lila looked panicked. Eric, just go. Eric muttered. She scurried upstairs. I heard drawers opening and closing. Ramirez stayed with me. You feel safe, ma'am? For now. You have somewhere to stay if this escalates. I'm not leaving my house. He nodded, like he respected that. Talk to a lawyer. Today. About a formal separation and an order of protection if you feel threatened. I will. Lila came downstairs with a duffel bag. Eric walked her out, their voices low and angry on the porch. Ramirez watched them go. You did the right thing, he said quietly. Feels like the only thing. He handed me a card. Call if he tries to bring her back, or if anything else happens. Thanks. After they left, The house felt too quiet. Eric came back in, slamming the door. He stood over me, eyes hard. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. I met his gaze. Steady. No. I just stopped making yours. He didn't respond, just turned and walked into the kitchen. I heard cabinets opening, glass clinking, then silence. I looked at the clock. 5:12 p.m. Dinner would be late, and I wasn't hungry. I didn't sleep. Not really. I dozed in 20-minute bursts, waking every time the floorboards creaked. At 6:03 a.m., I heard the shower. By 6:47, Eric was in the kitchen. Slamming cabinet doors like noise was a valid argument. I stayed on the couch. Walking upstairs felt like surrendering territory I wasn't ready to give up. At 7:15, he appeared in the doorway, briefcase in one hand, keys in the other. I'm leaving for work. Have a great day, I said. He didn't move. This isn't over. Nora, it is for now. You think last night changes anything? The cops aren't going to keep her out forever. They don't have to, I said. I do. He laughed short, dry. You can barely walk. I can talk. I can call. I can hire a lawyer. None of those require a pelvis. His jaw tightened. You're being vindictive. I'm being evicted from my own bedroom. Forgive me if I'm not feeling charitable. You always twist things, he said. You always make me the bad guy. You're making it pretty easy. He stepped into the room, lowered his voice. Fine, play it your way. But don't come crying when the bank accounts are frozen and the credit cards stop working. I met his eyes. Try it. He stared at me for a long second, then turned and left. The front door closed with a finality that sounded less like defeat and more like a threat. I waited 5 minutes, then reached for my phone. Marcy picked up on the second ring. You alive? Barely, I said. Eric moved his mistress into the house while I was in rehab. Silence. Then I'm on my way. Bring coffee. Black, obviously, and a crowbar, just in case. She hung up. I spent the next 40 minutes scrolling through my banking app. Everything looked normal for now. Checking, savings, joint Amex. But Eric was methodical. If he said the accounts were about to freeze, he meant it. At 8:22, Marcy's Civic pulled into the driveway. She didn't knock, just walked in, kicked the door shut behind her, and set a tray of coffees on the coffee table. Where is he? She asked, already shrugging off her coat. Work. Coward. She handed me a cup. Talk. I filled her in Lila. The slippers. The bed. The cups. The threat about the money. Marcy listened without interrupting, which was rare. When I finished, she sat back, sipped her coffee, and said, Okay, first, we're changing the locks. Second, we're calling Karen Voss. Third, we're freezing his access before he freezes yours. I can't freeze the joint accounts without a court order. Then we get a court order. That's what lawyers do. It takes time. So does bankruptcy. Move. Nora. She nudged my legs aside and sat on the edge of the couch. You're not playing defense anymore. You're playing offense. And I'm your coach. I'm still in a brace. Good. Let him underestimate you. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling Karen. She owes me a favor from the Henderson divorce. It's 8:30. Karen wakes up at 6 and bills by the quarter hour. She'll love this. While Marcy argued with Karen's paralegal, I tried standing. Pain lanced through my side, but I stayed upright. Baby steps. Literally. Marcy ended the call. 10 a.m. Zoom consult. Karen wants docs, deeds, tax returns, bank statements, credit card logs, everything from the last 3 years. That's a lot of digging. Then start digging. She pointed toward the stairs. I'll handle the locksmith. You handle the paperwork. Eric has a home office. And you have a key. I did. Somewhere. I found it in my purse, small. Brass. Labeled office in Eric's neat handwriting. I hadn't used it in months. Eric liked his privacy. Too much. Apparently. Marcy helped me up the stairs. Halfway, I paused. If he comes home, I'll tell him you died. Keep moving. The office door was locked. I slid the key in, turned it, and pushed. The room smelled like Eric cologne. Paper. The faint tang of whiskey from the decanter he kept in the bottom drawer. Everything was tidy. Too tidy. Like he'd cleaned up recently. Marcy stayed in the hallway. 5 minutes. Then I'm dragging you back downstairs. I started with the filing cabinet. Top drawer, tax returns. Middle, investment statements. Bottom, personal files. I pulled the middle drawer first. There, under investments, a folder labeled estate planning. I flipped it open. Will, life insurance, retirement accounts. And there it was, a revised beneficiary form dated 2 weeks ago. My name was still there, but underneath, handwritten in the margin, contingent, L.H. Elash, Lila Hart. I snapped a photo with my phone. Next folder, legal. Inside, half-filled separation papers, drafted by Eric's firm, dated the day after my accident. The language was cold, clinical. Petitioner seeks sole occupancy of the marital residence due to respondent's physical incapacity and inability to maintain household. Unbelievable. I kept digging. Bank statements, credit card logs, and then, buried under a stack of old pay stubs, a printout from a Swiss bank. Account number, balance, $247,000 under Eric's name. But the address was APO, box in Geneva. I photographed that too. Marcy's voice floated in. Nora? Locksmith's here. Coming. I shoved everything back into place, locked the cabinet, and limped out. Downstairs, a guy in a navy polo was installing a new deadbolt. Marcy was watching him like a hawk. Done, she asked. For now. Good, because Eric just texted. I pulled out my phone. Don't bother coming upstairs. I changed the Wi-Fi password. Also, the Amex is declined. Enjoy your morning. I showed Marcy. She snorted. Amateur. Karen's already filed an emergency motion to block asset dissipation. He pulls one more stunt, and the judge will freeze everything by noon, including the Swiss account, if we can prove it exists. Do we? I showed her the photo. Marcy whistled. Oh, he's screwed. Karen's going to salivate over this. Literally. I can hear her drooling from here. The locksmith finished. Marcy paid him in cash from her own wallet, because mine still worked. Thank God, and showed him out. At 9:55, we logged into the Zoom call. Karen Voss looked exactly like her reputation. Mid-50s, silver bob, razor-sharp cheekbones, and a stare that could melt steel. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. Nora, Marcy says you've got a situation. You could say that. I reviewed the notes. Husband moves mistress into home during medical recovery. Calls police. Good. Clean. Defensible. She glanced at something off-screen. Marcy mentioned offshore accounts. I sent the photo through the chat. Karen zoomed in. Swiss. Sloppy. If he'd used a trust, we'd have a fight. This is a gift. She looked back at me. Here's the play. We file for legal separation today. Request exclusive occupancy of the residence. Temporary restraining order against the girlfriend. Ms. Hart, returning to the property. Freeze all joint assets. And we subpoena that Swiss bank record. If he moves money after service, it's contempt. Possible criminal referral. How long? I asked. Service? Couple hours. Hearing? 3, maybe 4 days. Judge Hanrahan's on duty this week. He hates financial games. She paused. One wrinkle. Eric's firm has deep pockets. They'll bury us in motions if we're slow. So we move fast. You okay with that? I'm okay with anything that keeps her out of my house. Good. Marcy, you're on point for document delivery. I want those deeds and statements in my inbox by noon. Nora, I need a recorded statement Audio only about what happened last night. No lawyers present. Just you. Talking. Can you do that? Yes. Do it before lunch. Send it encrypted. My assistant will send the link. She leaned closer to the camera. One more thing. Eric's going to call. He's going to try to talk you down. Record that too. New Jersey's a one-party state. Use it. The call ended. Marcy stood. I'll drop the docs at Karen's office. You record the statement. Then, rest. Because tonight, he's going to lose his mind. She left. I sat in the silence, staring at the new lock on the front door. At 11:17, my phone rang. Eric. I hit record. Nora, he said, voice deceptively calm. What the hell are you doing? Recording a statement for my lawyer. Want to say something for the record? Stop. Just stop. This is insane. You're turning a misunderstanding into a war. Misunderstanding? You moved your girlfriend into our house while I was in a rehab facility. Eric, that's not a misunderstanding. That's a strategy. I was trying to help. By sleeping with her in my bed? It's not your bed right now. You're not even using it. That's not the point, and you know it. He exhaled. Loud. Fine. You want to play hardball? Fine. The accounts are frozen. The cards are dead. You want groceries? Gas? Call Marcy. See how long that lasts. Already ahead of you. Karen filed this morning. Silence. Then you talked to Voss. 90 minutes ago. God damn it. Nora. Save it. I have a statement to finish. You think a judge is going to throw me out of my own house? I think a judge is going to look at a man who moved his mistress into a home occupied by his disabled wife and wonder what else he's capable of. Disabled? You're not disabled. You're injured. Same difference to a court. He lowered his voice. Listen to me. If you do this, if you go through with this, I will make sure you never see a dime of my retirement. I will drag this out for years. I will destroy your credit, your reputation, everything. Do you understand me? I understand that you're threatening me, which is exactly why I'm recording this. You're making a mistake. No, I'm correcting one. The mistake was marrying you. I hung up. The silence afterward felt heavier than before. I sent the audio file to Karen's secure portal, then leaned back against the couch cushions. My ribs ached. My leg throbbed. But my mind was clear, clearer than it had been in weeks. At 12:43, Marcy texted, Docs delivered. Karen says, hearing Thursday at 9, wear something that hides the brace. Look fragile, but functional. I texted back, functional is debatable. She replied, fragile is bullshit. You're a goddamn tank. Rest up. Tomorrow we burn him. I closed my eyes. For the first time since the accident, I felt something that wasn't pain or fear. I felt ready. I woke up at 3 a.m., with my mouth tasting like stale acetaminophen and my brain wrapped in cotton. The pain was a dull, constant throb under my ribs. But the fog was worse. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and realized I hadn't thought clearly in days. Not since before the accident. Not since Eric started helping me. By 4 a.m., I'd made a decision. I swung my legs off the couch, wincing, and hobbled to the kitchen. The bottle of Percocet was on the counter where I'd left it. I twisted off the cap, dumped 2 pills into my palm, and stared at them. Eric's voice echoed in my head. You're not well. You're on medication. You're confused. I dropped the pills into the trash. Cold turkey wasn't going to be fun, but clarity was worth the withdrawal. I filled a glass with water and swallowed ibuprofen instead. It wouldn't touch the deep bone pain, but it wouldn't turn my thoughts to mush either. At 7:30, my phone buzzed. A text from Eric. Karen's motion is a joke. Judges don't kick people out of their own homes because their wife's feelings are hurt. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to Karen. By 8, Marcy was at the door with a bag of bagels and a scowl. You look like hell. Thanks. I stopped the opioids. She paused, mid-reach for a coffee mug. All of them. All of them. I need my head clear. Eric's already using the medicated angle against me. Smart. Stupid, but smart on his part. She pulled out her laptop. Speaking of angles, I did some digging on Lila Hart last night. She's not just some marketing girl. Nora. She's been sued twice for emotional distress by ex-girlfriends of guys she was sleeping with. Pattern recognition? She's a professional homewrecker. Great. A specialist. Yeah, and she's from Westchester. Old money. But the family lost it. She's probably after Eric's fat attorney salary. I thought about the Swiss account. She might be after more than that. Marcy's eyes narrowed. What did you find yesterday? Enough to know he's been planning this for a while. I need to get back into his office before he cancels his morning meetings and comes home. Then eat fast. I'll keep watch. Getting upstairs was slower without the drugs dulling the edges. Every step was a negotiation with my own skeleton. But by 8:45, I was back in Eric's office, the brass key turning in the lock with a satisfying click. This time, I bypassed the filing cabinet. Eric was too meticulous for paper trails. He lived in email. His desktop computer sat on the desk, humming softly, password protected, obviously. But Eric was predictable. His passwords were always variations of our anniversary, his bar exam date, or his golf handicap. First try, Callahan 0815, our wedding date. Incorrect. Second try, bar exam 0709. The login screen vanished, replaced by his cluttered desktop. I didn't bother with documents. I went straight to Outlook. The folders were a mess, but one caught my eye, personal H. I clicked it. The most recent thread was dated 3 days before my accident. Subject timeline. From Lila. Eric. She's getting suspicious. The rehab stay is longer than we thought. Can we move the discovery date up? I don't want to wait until she's fully mobile. From Eric. Patience. The doctor says 6 weeks minimum. If we move too soon, it looks planned. Let her come home first. It'll be more believable if she overreacts in her own environment. From Lila. And the money? From Eric. Swiss account is funded. Once the separation is filed, I'll trigger the transfers. By the time she notices, it'll be tied up in a trust. From Lila. And the life insurance? From Eric. Changed. Contingent beneficiary updated last week. Stop asking about details over email. Just focus on the supportive guest act. I read it 3 times, my pulse hammering in my ears. 6 weeks. The overreaction. The Swiss account. The life insurance. My accident wasn't an accident in the sense of him causing it, but he'd sure as hell capitalized on it. He'd timed his entire betrayal around my immobility. I forwarded the entire thread to my personal Gmail account, then deleted the forward from the sent items. Next, I checked his browser history, mostly legal databases, but buried among them were searches for how to prove spouse mental instability, pain medication cognitive effects, and New Jersey divorce abandonment laws. He was building a case that I was losing my mind. I heard a car door slam outside. Nora. Marcy's voice, sharp, from the bottom of the stairs. Eric's pulling up. I shut down the computer, wiped the mouse clean, and limped out of the office, locking it behind me. I made it to the top of the stairs just as the front door opened. Eric looked up, briefcase in hand, and froze when he saw me. What are you doing out of bed? Couldn't sleep, I said, keeping my voice even. Decided to enjoy my house while I still can. His eyes narrowed. You look different. Less medicated. He climbed the stairs, stopping 2 steps below me, close enough that I could smell his aftershave. That's not a good idea. Nora, you need those pills for the pain. I need my mind more. Funny thing, clarity hurts more than broken bones. He reached out, as if to steady me, but his fingers brushed my arm too lightly. Checking for tremors? You're shaking. With rage. Mostly. Marcy appeared at the base of the stairs. Arms crossed. Everything okay up there? Eric shot her a look. Family discussion. Marcy. Alone. She's not alone. Marcy said. She's got a witness. Eric turned back to me, lowering his voice. You went in my office, didn't you? I went in lots of places, including your email. His face didn't change, but his eyes went cold. You're violating my privacy. You violated our marriage. Pot. Kettle. We're separating. Nora. Privacy is the least of our concerns. Then you won't mind if I ask Karen to subpoena those emails, especially the ones about timelines and overreactions. He didn't blink. They're taken out of context. Really? So let her come home first. It'll be more believable if she overreacts isn't a confession. He stepped up one stair, invading my space. Careful. You start throwing around terms like confession, and I'll start documenting your erratic behavior, skipping medication, accusing me of things, calling the police over a guest. How long before a judge questions your competence? There's a difference between competence and clarity. Eric, you're counting on me being too drugged to notice your little paper trail. I'm counting on you being reasonable, he said, his tone shifting to the one he used in settlement negotiations, smooth, deadly. Walk away. Nora, take the settlement Karen offers. Don't dig. Don't fight. You'll get the house, half the liquid assets, and I won't contest the alimony. But if you keep this up, if you try to touch the Swiss account or bring up Lila in court, I will bury you so deep in litigation you'll be paying me just to cover your own legal fees. I leaned forward, ignoring the stab of pain in my side. Bury me? Eric, I've already hit rock bottom. You moved your mistress into my home while I was on a walker. There's nowhere left to fall. But you've got a bar license to protect, a partnership track, a reputation at that fancy firm on Park Avenue. Imagine what happens when your partners see these emails. Imagine what happens when the disciplinary committee gets a whiff of obstruction of justice and asset concealment. His jaw tightened. You wouldn't. I already did. There in Karen's inbox. He stared at me for a long 5 seconds. Then he smiled a thin, humorless curve of his lips. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your sent folder. Oh, wait, I deleted the forward. But the original? That's still there, along with your search history about mental instability. Real smart. Eric, using a work computer for a divorce you're planning while your wife's in the hospital. Real smart. He took a step back. Not much, but enough. The mask slipped, just for a second, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Uncertainty. Get out of my way, I said quietly. He moved aside, letting me descend the stairs. Marcy followed me into the living room, her eyes wide. Eric stayed at the top, watching us. This isn't over, he called down. Neither is my recovery. I replied, not looking back. Once we were seated, Marcy let out a breath. Holy shit, you actually baited him. I needed to see his face when I mentioned the emails. He's scared now. He knows I'm not just some injured wife he can manipulate. What's the next move? Cameras. I said, he's going to try something, moving papers, deleting files, maybe even trying to claim I'm a danger to myself. I want a record of everything. Marcy pulled out her phone. I know a guy, ex-cop, does security systems. He can have indoor cams installed by noon, hidden ones, so Eric doesn't accidentally unplug them. Do it. And Marcy? Thanks. She squeezed my shoulder. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive Thursday's hearing. And Eric? He's going to come at you harder now. He knows you're not bluffing. I looked at the new deadbolt on the front door, then at the stairs leading to the office where Eric's secrets lived. Let him. I said, I'd rather fight a cornered rat than a smiling liar. Wednesday night, Eric texted, Mom and Dad are coming over Thursday at 6. Dinner. Try not to embarrass us. I showed Marcy the message. She was curled up in the armchair, scrolling through the security app on her phone, 4 feeds, all showing different angles of the house. The cameras had been installed that afternoon by Marcy's ex-cop buddy, Tony. Small, black, discreet. 1 in the living room, 1 in the kitchen, 1 pointed at the front door, and 1 hidden in the office. Tony had shown me how to enable the silent alarm. 3 quick taps on the app icon, and the monitoring center would call the police for a wellness check. Embarrass us? Marcy repeated, snorting. He's got nerve. What's the play here? Power move. I said. He wants to show his parents he's still in charge, that I'm the unstable one, and he's the long-suffering husband. So he flipped the script. Exactly. Thursday morning. I dressed carefully. Loose black pants to hide the brace. A soft gray sweater that didn't pull across my ribs. I kept my hair down, framing my face. Fragile, but composed. Karen's advice. Look like you're holding it together with sheer will. Judges and mothers-in-law eat that up. At noon, Eric came home for lunch. He didn't speak to me, just grabbed a yogurt from the fridge and retreated to his office. I heard the lock click. Fine, let him hide. At 5:30, I started preparing dinner. I used the term loosely. I ordered high-end catering from the place down the street. Roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, almondine. Enough for 4. I arranged it on our good china, the Wedgwood set we got for our wedding. Eric walked in as I was setting the table. Since when do you cook? He asked, eyeing the spread. Since my husband decided to host his parents without consulting me. Figured I'd at least make it look like we're not savages. He frowned. Don't make this a production. Nora. Too late. It's already a production. I placed the last fork. Besides, I thought you'd appreciate the effort. Show Mom and Dad how hard I'm trying, despite my incapacity. He didn't like that. Keep it subtle. Subtlety's your department. Remember? The secret accounts. The Mistress. The half-finished separation papers. I'm more of a facts on the table kind of girl. Before he could reply, the doorbell rang. 6:01 p.m. Right on time. Eric shot me a warning look, then went to answer it. Mom. Dad, he said, his voice shifting into that polished, professional tone he used for clients. Come in. Susan and Robert Callahan swept into the foyer. Susan, all crisp linen and pearls, air kissing Eric's cheeks. Robert, broad-shouldered and silver-haired, nodding curtly. They didn't look at me. Nora, Susan said, finally acknowledging me. Her tone was cool, neutral. You're looking better. As am I said, smiling, considering I was hit by a truck 3 weeks ago. Recovery's a bitch, but the catering helps. Robert's eyebrows lifted slightly. Eric jumped in. Nora's been resting. Doctor's orders. But she insisted on hosting tonight. How kind, Susan said, though her eyes said otherwise. She glanced at the table. Lovely setup. Is that the Wedgwood? It is, I said. Figured it was worth breaking out for family. Though I had to ask Eric to lift the serving platters. Still can't manage heavy things. It was a small jab, but Susan caught it. Her lips thinned. We sat, Eric at the head, Robert to his right, Susan to his left. I took the seat across from Susan, forcing Eric to look at me if he wanted to avoid his mother's gaze. Small talk commenced. The weather, the stock market, Robert's golf game. Eric did most of the talking, filling the silences with updates about his cases, his colleagues, his upcoming partnership review. Susan listened, nodding, but her eyes kept drifting to me, assessing, judging. Finally, she spoke. Eric mentioned you had a bit of a scare the other night. Police at the house? Eric's fork paused halfway to his mouth. It was nothing, Mom, A misunderstanding with a guest. A guest? Robert asked, chewing. At 6 in the evening? A friend. Eric said, smoothly, staying over to help Nora while I'm at work. Things got tense. Nora overreacted. I set down my wine glass. Overreacted? Is that what we're calling it? Eric's jaw tightened. Nora. Because from where I sat, literally, on the couch, it felt less like an overreaction and more like a boundary violation. When your husband moves another woman into your home without telling you, tense doesn't quite cover it. Silence fell. Heavy. Immediate. Susan's fork clinked against her plate. Another woman? Eric's face flushed. It's not Nora. Don't. Don't what? Mention Lila? I kept my voice even. Conversational. Lila Hart. Blonde. Early 20s. Drives a white Audi. She was very helpful. Susan. Even wore my slippers. Very thoughtful. Robert put down his knife. Eric. Is this true? It's complicated. Eric said, his voice tight. Nora's not well. She's been on heavy medication. I stopped the medication 3 days ago. I said, clarity's amazing. Really. Suddenly. Things make sense. Like why Eric was so eager for me to stay in rehab longer. Why he kept forgetting to mention Lila's name. Why he's been funneling money into a Swiss bank account since February. Susan's eyes widened. Swiss account? Ask him. I said, account number ends in 8842. Roughly $250,000. Contingent beneficiary on his life insurance is listed as L.H. Guess whose initials those are? Eric shoved his chair back. Standing. You've lost your mind. You're making this up. Am I? Check your email. Eric. The one you sent to Lila on October 12th. Subject, timeline. You said, and I quote, let her come home first. It'll be more believable if she overreacts in her own environment. Sound familiar? Robert stood as well. His chair scraping loudly. Sit down. Eric. Eric ignored him. This is none of your business. Mother. Nora is unstable. She's trying to destroy me because she can't handle the fact that our marriage is over. Our marriage ended when you brought her into our bed. I said, not when I called the police. Susan looked between us, her face pale. Eric, is there really another woman? Eric didn't answer. He just stared at me, his eyes burning with hatred. I picked up my phone, opened the security app, and turned the screen toward Susan. Would you like to see the footage? Tony, the security guy, set it up. Motion activated. Captures audio too. I've got Eric here, explaining to Lila how he plans to trigger the transfers once the separation is filed. Would you like to hear that, Dad? Or would you prefer the part where he calls me half dead? Robert reached for the phone, but Eric lunged, knocking it out of my hand. It hit the floor with a crack. Enough! Eric roared. Susan flinched. Robert stepped forward, putting a hand on Eric's shoulder. Son, step back. Eric shook him off. Don't touch me. This is my house. She's delusional. She's been like this since the accident. Paranoid. Accusatory. I'm not the one who changed the Wi-Fi password the day after my wife came home from the hospital. I said, my voice cutting through his rant. I'm not the one who froze the credit cards. I'm not the one who drafted separation papers before the ambulance even left the scene. Eric turned on me, his fists clenched. You want to play this game? Fine. I'll have you committed. I'll tell the judge you're a danger to yourself. I tapped the security app icon on my phone 3 times. Fast. Silent alarm engaged. You'll what? I asked quietly. He didn't notice. He was too busy glaring at his parents. This is exactly why I didn't want you here. She's poisoned you against me, just like she poisons everything. Susan stood slowly, her chair scraping back. Eric, stop talking. No, I won't be silenced in my own home. She's a siren. Faint at first, then growing louder. Eric froze. What the hell is that? Robert walked to the window, peered out. Police car. Pulling into the driveway. Eric whipped around to me. You called them? Again? I met his gaze. Wellness check. Just in case things got heated. He took a step toward me. But Robert blocked him. Don't. The doorbell rang. I didn't move. I just sat there, hands folded in my lap, and waited. Eric looked at his father, then his mother, then back at me. The color drained from his face. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked truly powerless. Susan walked to the door, her spine straight. She opened it. Detective Ramirez stood there. Same calm expression as before. Evening. Now. We received a silent alarm from this address. Everything okay? Susan didn't look at Eric. She looked at Ramirez and said, clearly, no. Detective, everything is not okay. My son appears to be having a breakdown. Perhaps you should come in. Ramirez stepped inside. His eyes found me first, then moved to Eric, then to Robert. Eric opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Ramirez looked at me. Ma'am, you triggered the alarm? I did. I said. Things were escalating. Ramirez nodded. He turned to Eric. Sir, step outside with me. Please. Eric didn't move. Robert gently guided him toward the door. Go on, son. Talk to the officer. As Eric passed me, he leaned down, his voice a venomous whisper. You'll pay for this. I looked up at him. I already am. Eric. Every day. But now you're paying too. He was escorted out. Susan closed the door behind them, then leaned against it, closing her eyes. Robert sank into his chair. Jesus Christ. Susan walked back to the table, her movements stiff. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time. Is it true? The account? The woman? Every word. I said. I had the emails, the bank records, the beneficiary forms. Karen Voss has copies. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'll speak to Richard, your father's lawyer. This cannot happen. Not under this roof. Not with our name. It already did. I said, under your roof. With your name. She flinched. Then she nodded. Once. I'll handle Eric. You rest. Nora, you've been through enough. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. Acknowledgement. Validation. Outside, I could hear Eric's muffled voice, arguing with Ramirez. Then the sound of a car, door opening, closing, driving away. Susan sat down heavily. Robert poured her a glass of wine, his hand shaking slightly. I looked at the ruined dinner, the cooling food, the empty chairs. Dinner's cold, I said. Susan looked at me, and for a second, I saw something like pity in her eyes. Let it rot, she said quietly, and for the first time in weeks, I believed I might actually win. The Saturday after Eric's meltdown in front of his parents dawned quiet. Too quiet. I spent the morning on the couch, laptop balanced on my knees, reviewing the discovery packet Karen had sent over. Depositions scheduled, subpoenas drafted. The Swiss bank account was already under a temporary freeze thanks to Judge Hanrahan's ruling on Thursday afternoon, right after the police escorted Eric off the property. Susan had called Karen personally. That phone call alone was worth the price of admission. At 10:17 a.m., a black Lincoln Town car pulled up. Not Eric's BMW. A hired process server in a cheap suit got out, carrying a manila envelope thick enough to choke a horse. I watched him through the front window. Marcy, who'd crashed on the recliner, stirred. Showtime? Showtime. I opened the door before he could knock. He mumbled something about serving papers and held out the envelope. I took it, signed the digital pad without looking at him, and closed the door. Inside, I slit the envelope with a butter knife. Separation papers. Eric's version. He was demanding sole occupancy, citing my instability and pattern of harassing behavior toward third parties. He wanted half the liquid assets, excluding the Swiss account. Naturally, and he was contesting the duration of alimony based on my earning capacity post-injury. The gall was impressive. Attached was a cover letter from his new attorney, some hotshot from his firm named Gregory Pace. We trust this matter can be resolved amicably to avoid unnecessary emotional distress for all parties involved. Unnecessary emotional distress. Marcy read over my shoulder. That's rich. What's the play? Counter sue, I said. I pulled out my phone and texted Karen a photo of the cover letter. Received. Pace is already playing dirty. Let's bury them. Karen replied instantly. Filed our response at 9. Exclusive occupancy granted pending final hearing. Restraining order extended to include financial transactions over $500. Pace will call by noon to scream. Don't answer. Let him leave a voicemail. At 11:43, the phone rang. Unknown number. I hit ignore. 30 seconds later, voicemail notification. I put it on speaker. Mrs. Callahan, this is Gregory Pace. I represent your husband. I've reviewed the creative filings submitted by Ms. Voss, and I must say, I am disappointed. Accusations of offshore asset concealment, emotional abuse. This is precisely the type of scorched earth tactics that clogs our courts. I strongly advise you to rein in your counsel before my client seeks sanctions. Call me. Beep. Marcy grinned. He sounds sweaty. He sounds like Eric's puppet. I forwarded the audio to Karen. Sweaty and predictable. At 12:15, another car pulled up. Not a Lincoln. A white Audi convertible. Lila. Marcy was on her feet instantly. Oh, hell no. I stayed seated, watching through the window as Lila got out. She was dressed like she was auditioning for a role in a country club commercial, cashmere wrap, designer jeans, hair blown out to perfection. She carried a small suitcase. She knocked. I didn't move. She knocked again. Louder. Nora? I know you're in there. Eric said it's okay. He said the judge ruled in his favor. I looked at Marcy. Eric's lying. Again. Marcy marched to the door and yanked it open. Beat it. Darabie. Lila blinked. All wide-eyed innocence. I'm here to see Eric. He invited me. Eric's not here. Marcy said, and you're not invited. Actually, he texted me this morning. Lila held up her phone. Screen glowing. See? He said the restraining order was dissolved and I could move my things back in. I recognized the script. Eric was testing the boundaries, seeing if Lila could provoke me into violating the TRO so he could flip the narrative. Classic abuser tactic. I pushed myself up, pain flaring, and limped to the door. Let me see the text. Lila hesitated, then handed over the phone. The message was there. Time-stamped 9:02 a.m. Order lifted. Come by afternoon. Nora's being difficult, but ignore her. We're back on schedule. Back on schedule. Like I was a stalled project. I handed the phone back. That's a lie. Lila, the order's still active. I have the court docket on my laptop. Updated 15 minutes ago. Eric's playing you. Her smile faltered. He wouldn't. He would. Marcy cut in. He's using you as a pawn. Again, remember the supportive guest act? How'd that work out? Lila's eyes darted between us. He said you were twisting things, that you're unstable. I'm stable enough to know a forged court order when I see one. I said, that text? It's entrapment. If you step foot inside, I call the cops. You get arrested for contempt. Eric gets to play the victim. You get a criminal record. Everyone loses except him. She paled. He said it was handled. He lies. I said simply, about everything. The money, the timeline, me, you, especially you. Before she could respond, a third car screeched into the driveway. Eric's BMW. He jumped out, still in his suit from Friday, looking like he hadn't slept. Lila, he shouted, striding toward the house. Get inside. Now. Eric. Wait, she started. He ignored her, storming up to the door. He saw me, saw Marcy, saw the suitcase in Lila's hand. His face twisted. You. He spat at me. You're still pulling this? The order's dissolved. Pace handled it. Pace handled nothing. I said, check your email. Eric, the only thing dissolved is your credibility. He reached for Lila's arm. She flinched away. That small movement seemed to enrage him more than anything I'd said. Get in the house. He growled at her. Eric. She said the order's still, Lila tried. I don't care what she said. I pay the mortgage. I pay the bills. This is my house. Both of you inside. Now. Marcy stepped forward, blocking the doorway. Touch her, and I'll break your wrist. Eric's hand froze midair. He looked at Marcy, then at me. For a second, I saw the real Eric, petty, cruel, terrified of losing control. Then the mask slammed back down. Fine, he hissed. Play it your way, but you're going to regret this. Nora, I'll make sure you never work in this city again. I'll make sure every architect firm knows your name as a liability. You'll what? I interrupted. My voice was steady. Calm. The calm that comes from having nothing left to lose. You'll hide more money? You'll forge more documents? You'll call me unstable one more time? Go ahead. Eric, say it again. Say it in front of the nice officers who are already on their way. He blinked. What? I pulled out my phone. Showed him the screen. The security app was open. The silent alarm had been triggered the moment he grabbed Lila's arm. The monitoring center had already called. I had confirmed the wellness check. You called them, he said, the realization dawning. Again. I confirmed. Because you keep giving me reasons to. Lila took a step back, putting distance between herself and Eric. You said it was handled. She whispered. You said she was crazy. She is crazy. Eric shouted, spinning on her. She's manipulating you. She's manipulating everyone. My mother. The judge. The cops. She's a liar. I'm a liar? I laughed. Short and sharp. Eric, I have your emails. I have your bank records. I have your search history on how to prove spouse mental instability. I have you on tape telling Lila to move the discovery date up so my overreaction looks more believable. I have Susan Callahan herself telling Detective Ramirez you were having a breakdown. Who's the liar here? The woman with the paper trail? Or the man holding a suitcase in my driveway? Sirens. Faint, but getting louder. Eric's head snapped toward the sound. For a split second, panic flickered in his eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by cold fury. This isn't over, he said, voice low. I will drag this out for years. I will bankrupt you. I will take everything. You can try, I said, but you'll do it from a hotel room. Eric, because this house, it's mine. The court said so this morning. Check your email. Oh, wait. Karen probably already froze your access to the firm server. Better call Pace. Let him explain how amicable resolution just became total surrender. The cruiser pulled up behind the BMW. Detective Ramirez and Officer Chin got out. Same as before, but this time, Ramirez didn't look surprised to see Eric. Mr. Callahan, Ramirez said, approaching. We meet again. Eric straightened his tie, slipping back into lawyer mode. Detective, my wife is mistaken. The restraining order was dissolved this morning. I have a text from my attorney. Mr. Pace called us an hour ago. Ramirez said evenly, informed us of the court's actual ruling. The TRO remains in effect. Mr. Callahan, you are in violation of a court order by being on this property. Eric's mouth opened, then closed. He looked at Lila, who was edging toward her car. Lila, stay. She didn't. She kept walking. Ramirez turned to her. Ms. Hart, you'll need to leave as well. This is a restricted residence. I'm going, she muttered, fumbling for her keys. Eric watched her go, then looked back at me. Something in his expression shifted. Not remorse. Not quite. Resignation. Maybe. Or the dawning awareness that the game was truly over. Ramirez addressed him. Mr. Callahan, you can come with us voluntarily, or we can arrest you for contempt. Your choice. Eric looked at me one last time. You think this wins you anything? You'll be alone in that house. Nora, alone with your pills and your bitterness. I met his gaze, unflinching, better alone than used. Eric, now get off my porch. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked toward the cruiser without another word. Ramirez followed. Chin stayed behind, handing me a business card. Ma'am, call if he returns, day or night. I will, I said. After they drove off, Marcy let out a long breath. Well, that was satisfying. I looked at the empty driveway. The white Audi was gone. The BMW was gone. The cruiser was gone. Just silence. Dinner, I said suddenly. Marcy frowned. What? It's almost 1. Dinner would have been late anyway. I looked at her. But I'm hungry now. Marcy grinned. Chinese? Chinese. She pulled out her phone to order. I stood there, leaning against the doorframe, feeling the sun on my face. My ribs still ached. My legs still throbbed. But for the first time in months, the weight on my chest was gone. Eric Callahan had tried to erase me, had tried to replace me, had tried to bury me under lies and legal paper. Instead, he'd buried himself. I turned, limped back inside, and closed the door. The lock clicked shut. Dinner could wait. I had a life to reclaim.